Start this very quickly. Very quickly. I need to restart this. All right, guys, everyone who is here as well, let's get the chat up. I had to restart that very, very quickly. How do I add this to the... Can I make that? I think that anyway, whatever. It's all good. Hello, guys. All right, back. Sorry, I had to add certain aspects into what is going on right now. I'm gonna need everyone to also actually let me just see where I can find the FOMC here. 1 second. Aha. Is it? No, that's not it. 1 second. 18. Hello, everyone. Hello. Sorry, I'm just looking to try and find the... There we go. Live video. Perfect. Okay, nice.
Drop dead date for all the Liberation Day tariffs is still out there and unresolved. You've got now exchange of missiles between two Middle East adversaries with a possible U.S. involvement. How can you justify saying that risks have diminished?
So what we said was that uncertainty
has
uncertainty.
Have I just missed the meeting?
Has diminished but remains elevated. Many say that they do. So
and that's the rates. Wait, did I just miss the meeting? What is going on right now?
Remember to check that.
Oh no! All right, let's put this back up. Let me see what I can.
Tariff uncertainty really peaked in April, and since.
Why did no one tell me it was 7:30? What's the time? Oh, okay, 15 minutes. All right, go whatever.
It's uncertainty, so I think that's an accurate statement.
All right, let's see what this guy is saying. Oh my God, I can't believe I missed it.
Thank you, Chris.
Why did no one tell me anyway? Whatever it was.
There is an argument out there in favor of cutting rates more immediately. Inflation has continued to cool and is back to roughly 2% despite the tariffs. And I guess I also wanted to ask about cracks in the job market with gross hiring slowing.
All right, let's see what is going on here.
We've seen some housing data, including this morning, that have been pretty weak. Do you see any concerns that the economy is weakening and that is a reason to cut rates going forward?
So we do of course monitor all those things. I think if you look at the overall picture, what you're seeing.
They didn't change it, I'm assuming. Yeah, I don't think they changed it.
And an economy that's growing at a rate hard to know given the unusual flows in the first quarter, but it appears to be 1.5–2%, maybe a little better than that. Sentiment has come up off of its very low levels. It's still depressed. So
right.
You can point to things. The housing market is a longer run problem and also a short run problem. I don't think it's indicative of basically the situation is we have a longer run shortage of housing, and we also have high rates right now. I think the best thing we can do for the housing market is
I don't get
restore price stability in a sustainable way and create a strong labor.
I'm going to go into the market analysis in a second, but
for the housing market. You asked about,
and I'll tell you what my theories and what my thoughts are.
Job market. Again, look at labor force participation. Look at wages. Look at job creation. They're all at healthy levels now. I would say you can see perhaps a very, very slow continued cooling, but nothing that's troubling at this time. But we watch it very, very carefully. So overall, again, the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to economic developments, and for now, and we'll be watching the data carefully.
Well, just quickly on, given that there are concerns that inflation will rise, but
you guys want to check it out? I'm
scenario
looking at it there.
Tariffs would create demand destruction and slow growth sufficiently, and that would perhaps keep a bit of a lid on inflation. Do you see odds of that scenario? What kind of odds do you see of that scenario coming true? And how many months of cool inflation would you need to see before concluding that maybe that lower inflation scenario is taking place?
I like that question.
This is very much the conversation we had today and yesterday. There are many, many different scenarios, many combinations of scenarios where inflation does or doesn't prove out to be at the levels we think, and where the labor market does or doesn't soften. Right. I think what you see people doing is looking ahead at a time of very high uncertainty and writing down what they think the most likely case is. No one holds these rate
uncertainty, man. This is the problem.
A great deal of conviction, and everyone would agree that they're all going to be data dependent, and that you can make a case for any of the rate paths. I think that you see in the SEP, and we do this once a quarter. It's a hard thing to do particularly at this time, but it does reflect. If you see somebody writing down a rate path that involves cuts, that's them saying, yes, I think we will get to a place, more likely than not, where cuts will be appropriate, and it could be a joint probability of a number of possible outcomes.
Which is what exactly? What are you looking for exactly? What is it that you're looking for? Why can't you be clear about what exactly you're looking for?
Mr. Chair, I wonder if you could describe for us
some of those scenarios. That's the problem we're facing right now.
How do you get to a place? I'm noticing that the uncertainty levels in your forecasts are very high.
Yeah.
How do you get to a place where you have the confidence in the outlook for, say, inflation and or growth or the unemployment rate? How many months does it take, and what do you want to see in the data to get to that level of confidence?
Exactly. What is it that we're looking for here?
So it's very, very.
Is
hard
it a
to say
feeling?
When that will happen.
Do they need to feel it? Is it like
could come quickly?
Let me just feel the energy in the air. What more do you need?
The economy is solid, though. As long as we're seeing the kind of labor market that we have and reasonably decent growth and inflation moving down, we feel like the right thing to do is to be where we are, where our policy stance is, and just learn more. And in particular, we feel like we're going to learn a great deal more over the summer on tariffs.
It does seem a bit political at the moment.
Much by now, and they haven't. And we
but
will
I am
see where
almost certain by the next one he's going to cut
over coming months, and I think that's going to inform our thinking for one thing. In addition, we'll see how the labor market progresses. So, at some point, it will become clear. I can't tell you exactly when that will be, and meanwhile, we'll be watching the labor market very carefully for signs of weakness and strength, and tariffs for signs of what's going to happen there. And of course, there are many developments ahead. Even in the near term, developments are expected on tariffs. So I think we don't yet know with any confidence where they will settle out. We have an estimate, and I think all estimates are now pretty close together, but it's highly uncertain.
When you say estimate of the impact of tariffs on the core PCE, is that what it is? And could you share that?
What you start with is what's the effective tariff rate overall, and people are managing to that.
Right.
But the pass through of tariffs to consumer price inflation is a whole process that's very uncertain. As you know, there are many parties in that chain. There's the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer, the retailer, and the consumer. And each one of those is going to be trying not to be the one to pay for the tariff, but together they will all pay for it together, or maybe one party will pay it all. But that process is very hard to predict, and
but
we haven't been through a situation like this, and I think we have to be humble about our ability to forecast. So that's why we need to see some actual data
all of us, man.
To make better decisions.
All of us are in that stage. Don't
some
worry
more
about
data, and again, in the meantime, we can do that because the economy remains in solid condition.
Nick Cameros of the Wall Street Journal. Chair Powell, I guess I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit more the divergence we see in the dot plot, particularly around the 2025 rate projections. I realize this is, you have one group of officials that are putting down no cuts, another that are putting down more than one. And again, recognizing that could be difficult to summarize, but is it a matter of people having a different outlook, or a different reaction function, a different commitment to defending against another inflation mistake? How did that play out over the last
What is the
2 days?
cautious level?
So
I don't quite get it. Why this?
And this is often the case. We have a pretty healthy diversity of views on the committee. We did have strong support for today's decision and broad agreement that our policy stance does leave us in a good place. But I would point to two factors, and you mentioned them. The first is just that parties have a diversity of forecasts. and they do align with where their dots are. So if you have a higher inflation forecast, you're going to be less likely to be writing down, more cuts. But remember, as we see more data, we're going to learn more about where inflation is headed, and that means when it is time to look at normal, resuming our normalization process, the differences you see should be smaller because we'll have seen actual data. Right now, it's just a forecast in a very foggy time. Look. So that's the first part, is forecast. Secondly, people can look at the same data and they can evaluate the risks differently, as you know. And that includes, the risk of higher inflation, the risk that it'll be more persistent, the risk that the labor market will weaken. People are going to have different assessments of that risk. You put that
economy is wonderful.
So those are the two ways that the two things I think that drive these things. Remember, though, as I mentioned earlier, with uncertainty as elevated as it is, no one holds these rate paths with a lot of conviction. So that's really where it is. It's a function of those things, and I think as the data come in, you should see those differences.
As the epitome of like,
if I could follow,
who knows?
Who knows, my friend? It's modestly restrictive, given all the uncertainty you just talked about, tariff levels, uncertainty around the pass through, is it price increases versus margin compression, some of the softness that Chris talked about in labor and housing. Why wouldn't it be better to have rates at a more neutral setting as the economy heads into this period of very high uncertainty?
Gangster.
So if you just look backward at
gangster. Data, I love that question.
That's what you would say, but
what are you gonna say?
You have to be forward-looking.
And
the thing that every forecaster, every outside forecaster, and the Fed is saying is that we expect a meaningful amount of inflation to arrive in coming months.
Right.
And we have to take that into account. So I think a backward-looking look would lead you to a neutral stance, but we can't. We have to look at that, and because the economy is still solid, we can take the time to actually see what's going to happen. There's a range of possibilities on how large the inflation effects and the other effects are going to be. So we'll make smarter and better decisions if we just wait a couple of months or however long it takes to get a sense of what is going to be the pass-through
Did he just say
inflation and what are
couple of months
the effects on spending and on hiring and all those things.
I'm telling you, man, the next one they're going to be cutting. I don't care what they say.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Radio and television.
I think they're worried about the war.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue continues to lob insults in your direction, and I'm wondering, given now that the Supreme Court has maybe carved out the Fed from some of the legal implications of that, whether this is just noise that the markets and everybody should ignore until your term is up, or whether you worry that it could lead to more pressure on confidence on Wall Street, on consumers about the outlook for the economy.
Okay. From my standpoint,
that question.
What everyone on the FOMC wants is a good, solid American economy with strong labor market.
That question was amazing.
Our policy is well positioned right now.
That question was amazing.
And to be able to respond in a timely way as the data.
Do we need to wait until you leave, until you cut?
Part of that is our stance. And
seriously,
again,
you need to leave.
We're in a good place on that to respond to significant economic developments. That's what matters.
That's amazing.
That is what matters to us. Pretty much, that's all that matters to us.
I need to ask, assuming you are not reappointed, would you stay on as governor when your term is chair?
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about this.
Mr. Chairman.
Got him. That's hilarious.
Increasing, picking up significantly. What kind of effect would that have on the labor market?
Sorry, with what picking up?
Workplace raids.
So you're asking immigration?
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't want to speculate. One way to get at that from an economic standpoint, we of course don't comment on immigration policy. It's not ours to make or comment on. But what you see is an unemployment rate that has been really solid and at a low level, not really increasing. It's been in a good range and well within the range of mainstream estimates of maximum employment. And that means, like, part of that is that labor demand and labor supply are kind of moving down at the same rate.
Do you guys also feel the energy in the room?
Creation,
where they're like,
kind of at a healthy
you're like,
level.
bro, can you cut now, please?
Because the
everyone wants you to cut.
We see
everyone
are much lower than they were. So those two factors, supply and demand, that's what has kept the the unemployment rate in a reasonably stable place.
Okay, thanks. The other thing I wanted to follow up on is if you could elaborate on the potential changes to the SCP that you suggested.
He's definitely
part
gone.
Of the framework review.
This guy definitely is gone. They'll never vote him back.
So the framework review really has two tracks, right? The first track is our policy framework that is reflected in the consensus statement. And we've said that we would finish that and announce it by the end of the summer. So we're well along in that process. We've had the meetings that we need to have, and we're now going to be going into, into discussions about, specific changes to language. So that's the framework part of it. The second part of it is our communications tools and practices. And that
drink some water, brother.
Next,
drink it.
Okay, that's what we're going to do.
Maybe it'll make you.
Fall. Actually, what we
maybe
did
it'll make
meeting,
you.
Though, is we sort of prepared the ground for that. We had a
maybe make you want to cut. I don't know, man.
At a high level about a number of ideas. The SCP is part of it. Many other ideas. It's sort of how do we think our communications can be improved? There are a number of ideas. People offered a really. It was a great conversation.
Okay.
Number of ideas, but we're going to look at those with staff briefing and a lot of thought in the fall. And I would say when it comes to changing communications,
what's the rest of the year now? I'll do that after the meeting. You can see if you want to check it out. You can check it out.
Very broad support, and also you want to be really careful because I think our communications are pretty well received.
It's middle. It's nothing really.
So.
It's still somewhat hawkish.
So we're going to be looking at ways to do things that will improve
the
clarity
for some reason
of what we do for the benefit of the public.
I know why. I know what his worries are, but like.
Thanks, Chair Powell. Kelly O'Grady, CBS News. You're famously known as the guy that makes decision based on data instead of speculation.
Oh,
you said today
I feel a smackdown coming.
Data is in a good place. We don't know how tariffs are going to impact prices going forward.
She gives me smackdown vibes.
But I've got to go back to the last time that you cut rates in December, and there was still vibes of tariffs. So what made you feel comfortable cutting then when inflation was higher than where it is today, and you didn't cut today?
Boom.
The forecast for inflation in December was 2.5 core PCE for 2025. The forecast was 2.5%, which is a good inflation forecast. I think what we've learned is that, and this was long before we had any idea of what the actual policies would be. We've learned that tariffs are going to be substantially larger than forecasters generally thought, and we don't. Our forecasts are generally not particularly different from those of other, well-resourced forecasting operations. So what we learned, and particularly in April, was that very substantially larger tariffs were coming and that would mean higher inflation. That's what happened. And so you saw 2.5% forecast in December, you saw 2.8% in March, and you see 3.1% now. So it's 0.6 higher inflation for 2025. And that's a big part of the change. And that's due to the effects of the tariffs that are, we don't know where they're going to land, but it's pretty apparent they're going to land higher than outside forecasters were really guessing at the end of last year.
Yeah, but
my follow-up to that, I think consumers, right, we're looking for relief on rates when it comes to mortgages,
I'm getting political
car
vibes
loans.
as well.
Small businesses want to take out more manageable loans. When you look at the cumulative inflation over the past 5 years, prices have risen over 20%. It's been a rough road. So what is the tipping point then for the wait and see approach in terms of how much it's going to help versus when it hurts the American consumer?
That's a question.
Well, I mean, we're trying to restore price. The best thing we can do for the public that we serve is restore price stability. If we can, and we will, restore price stability, meaning 2% inflation on a durable, sustainable basis. That, and also maximum employment. If we restore those things, that's the best thing.
Yeah, but
that is our goal. The best thing we can do for the American people, for households and businesses, that is the ultimate thing that we can deliver. And they can make their decisions without having to think about inflation all the time. So in the meantime, we have to keep rates high to get inflation all the way down. They're not very high. Let's be honest. I would say policy is modestly or moderately, probably modestly now restrictive. If you look at the economy, it's not performing as though it were performing under very strict monetary policy, very restrictive monetary policy. So I would say probably modestly restrictive. And so what it will take
I like her as well.
Confidence that inflation is coming down. Now, I would say
I think she gives me like proper boss vibes.
Because if you see what's happening with non-housing services and housing services, which are the other two big pieces other than goods, those are coming down really nicely now. So I think we have to learn a little more about tariffs. I don't know what the right way for us to react will be. I think it's hard to know with any confidence how we should react until we see really the size of the effects, and then we can start to make a better judgment. So
if you guys want to see better, you can check it here and there. We can take the
time to do that because unemployment is 4.2%. Wages are moving up. Real wages are moving up at a healthy clip now, and inflation is 2.3% headline inflation over a 12-month basis. So it's a good economy and a solid economy with decent growth.
It's a 2.3% inflation. That you're almost verging at the 2 level that you're looking for.
Thank you, Chair Powell. So you're saying that uncertainty has come down, the economy is moving at a solid pace, inflation has come down over the past 3 months, and this is all moving in the right direction.
Right.
So are you indicating here that Americans should expect some sort of economic pain in the second half of the year?
Ooh.
I'm not saying that at all. From our standpoint, what I can say is that the U.S. economy is in solid shape. Inflation.
Tell us, Mister. Are you expecting something bad to happen, Mister?
Real wages are moving up. It's a good job creation is at a healthy level. Unemployment, again, as I said, low. Labor force participation.
Right. Yeah, but so everything is recovering. So why? What are you waiting for?
Is to understand.
We're on a downtrend at the moment
with really the tariff inflation, and there's a lot of uncertainty about that. Every forecaster you can name who is a professional, forecaster with adequate resources and forecasts for a living is forecasting pretty significant. Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs because someone has to pay for the tariffs, and it will be someone in that chain that I mentioned between the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer.
Yeah, but doesn't it depend on the size of the tariffs, my friend?
Putting it into
there is a degree on the size of the tariffs that are being created that can be absorbed by the manufacturer and throughout the chain.
But ultimately, the cost of the tariff has to be paid, and some of it will fall on the end consumer. We know that because that's what businesses say.
That's but tariffs are already being paid. Yeah, so we know that's speaking. Coming. Yeah, if you go to one of these, you'll see.
We just want to see a little bit of that before we make judgments prematurely.
And follow up on that. So you spent years talking
come back in October,
so in May, be a little more direct on this. Now you're making decisions looking forward. Doesn't the data you're seeing today indicate there should be a rate cut?
Blame prime trees all the time. Yeah, I know.
Monetary policy has to be forward-looking. That is elementary. You've got to be looking. I always talk about the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks.
Right.
We say that over and over and over again. Right. So it's always forward-looking. At the very beginning of the pandemic, we cut rates to zero immediately. Nothing had happened. We just knew that it was going to be really bad. Right. So we took very aggressive forward looking
everyone
because we knew things were going to be.
Any questions you have as well? We show some other market data and what I'm thinking as well.
This is something we
know
is coming. We just don't know the size of it.
He's going to cut rates for sure.
At the economy seems to be in solid shape.
I think by the next one.
The labor market's not crying out for a rate cut. Businesses, were in a bit of shock after April 2, but you see.
Are you saying that no one's crying for a rate cut?
It's a very different feeling now that people are working their way through this.
I would love to take a poll of that room.
It feels much more positive.
I don't think he's getting the energy of the questions that they're asking this guy.
Again, we think that our current stance of monetary policy is in a good place.
Like, read the room, bro.
Thank you. I'm Aaron Mokway with Bloomberg. Chair Powell, in February, you told Congress that the Fed is, quote, overworked, maybe not overstaffed. Then in a memo to staff in May announcing a deferred resignation program at the Fed, you said you wanted to ensure that the Fed was, quote, right-sized. Those two statements appear to be at odds with one another. Could you explain what changed in the roughly 3 months between those statements that made you decide that staff levels at the Fed should decline?
I don't see them at all as intention. So I was asked, is the Fed overstaffed? And I said no. And I sort of said
these questions
not overstaffed. People
really
do work
annoy me.
Extremely hard at the Fed, and I know
who
they work hard at
cares?
Bloomberg too. But we do. We work hard.
I would say
this. So we are careful.
I would say
stewards
moderately
of public
hawkish.
And sometimes you need to show that. So there have been several times in our history where the Fed has said, we're going to do a buyout. We're going to show the public, we're going to demonstrate that we are good stewards of public resources. So we thought, and I thought that
no, I don't care about the staffing. Who cares?
We grow.
Who cares about
our
the
headcount is
staffing?
growing at about
Whatever.
1% a year. So over the course of a couple of years, we're doing a careful scrub of the board and all the reserve banks, and we're going to find
I would say by the next one they're going to cut
of employees.
At this current
who can do
moment, it's
something
like
else,
56%
where we
cut
can
in September.
streamline our operations
By September.
and
So
we think we can get there in a couple of years. We think we can do
I mean,
that.
if he doesn't cut by that
And
time,
we
it's
think
pure
the
political.
and
I think if he's going to be looking for he knows he's going, right? He knows he's going. This guy is not going to hold out. There is no way. There's no way he's going to hold out.
Respecting that we have critical missions to carry
So
out.
he could be doing it in some sort of
experience in my prior careers, with
it could be some sort of political thing that's going on. But what's he got to gain from doing this?
Carefully, thoughtfully, with a lot of planning, and you do it over a period of time.
What has he got to gain from doing this? I don't get it.
The Fed will be fine. I think no one will notice any decline in our ability to carry out our missions. And I think it's just us wanting to demonstrate to the public that we are actually good stewards of their resources. We're effectively wiping out 10 years of headcount growth with this. So, I mean, we wanted to show that, that we're good stewards.
How is progress on reducing headcount going so far? Are you on track to meet the goal?
We're just at the very beginning. As you know,
yeah,
we're
but
doing
aggravating Trump for what reason? I mean, like it's only going to cause more problems for him in the future. What's he gaining from doing this?
Every year or anything, but you can do it at intervals, and you wind up not.
It makes me think that he really does see some problem happening.
Chair Powell, Claire Jones from the Financial Times. As you're no doubt aware, the Senate Finance Committee has tabled its version of the reconciliation bill this week, and I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the tenor of the debate in the FOMC over the past few days on fiscal policy and the degree to which that influenced people's projections for 2026 and beyond. Thank you.
Let's say that he's playing it safe. Yeah,
we don't.
I don't think it's that. I have a theory on what's going on.
We take fiscal policy as fully exogenous, and so we actually, really didn't talk about the bill or the contents of it. It's still evolving. When it gets closer, remember also we have a very, very large economy, and the effects will be at the margin.
Love a theory. I have a theory.
I expect that they may already be in, but they will be in by the next meeting. We'll make an estimate, but it's not a major thing. It's nothing that we discuss.
Is he retiring in June?
It may have been mentioned a couple of times, but as something that's coming in.
I'll have a look when he's retired.
But I think the outcome is, we don't know the outcome yet there, so hard to be real specific.
Neil. Thanks, Chair Powell. Neil Irwin with Axios. There have been some cutbacks in economic statistics collection in the last few weeks. Worries that long-running problems around funding and response rates may be getting worse. How much is this concern on your radar? How much confidence do you have that the gauges you're watching to assess the economy are reliable right now?
Two things. One, the data we get right now, we can do our jobs. I'm not concerned that we can't do our jobs. That's not the point. The point really is that we are starting.
I don't want to say it, right? I just don't want to say it. But that question,
layoffs and important
is possibly one of the dumbest questions I've ever heard. What do you think he's going to say?
Surveys.
That's true. Yeah, the data we get is bad. Yeah,
I think we should take a
step
back.
Yeah, the cuts are going to make us. We're getting bad data, and we're making decisions on bad data. Is that what he thought? Is that the question? The answer he's going to get?
It helps.
There's no answer to that question.
It helps the government. It helps Congress. It helps the executive branch.
Stupid ass question.
Really, it helps businesses. They need to know what's going on in the economy. The United States has been a leader for many, many years in this whole project of measuring and understanding what's happening in our very large and dynamic economy. And I hate to see us cutting back on that because it is a real benefit to the general public that people in all kinds of jobs have the best possible understanding of what's happening in the economy and hence what's likely to happen. It's very hard to measure what's going on in the US economy.
I really don't think so.
There was a book called, it's really remarkable how many things
you need
to understand to estimate US GDP. Very, very difficult. And it's so important that we get it right. I just would say it's not a place to.
What is he
I would want to
afraid
keep
of?
investing in that.
This
for
guy
the
is
good
afraid
the
of
general
something.
public.
He's afraid of something, and he's not revealing it. Like there's no right now. His
Hi,
fears
Victoria
are
Guido with Politico.
slightly unjustified.
So you're conducting this monetary policy strategy framework review.
Get him, Victoria.
Next year, we're supposed to have a new Fed chair. And I'm wondering if that affects at all the way that you're approaching this. How do you ensure that this framework will actually be durable?
The framework document goes back to 2012, and it's the committee's document. It's not like we're going to invent a brand new way to do things. It's been an evolving document, so it shouldn't depend on who the chair is at all. It should depend on what's happening in the economy and what the committee wants to do. So, yeah, it isn't really tied to any particular chair. And we used to renew it every year. Now we do it every 5 years. So, but I don't think I've never heard anyone raise this issue that a new chair might want to come in and go in a completely different direction. I really don't think that's right. But but that's not going to be up to me to decide.
No. That's exactly what's going to happen.
You're consulting with?
Not at all. Not in any way.
That's exactly what's going to happen. You think the person they're going to choose is going to be doing the same thing you're doing? No, they're going to be choosing the guy that's cutting.
Thank you, Chair Powell.
That's who they're going to be choosing.
From CNN. Relatively low
you
gas
have the big white
prices
T-shirt on
this
when you have
year
good
have
news
helped
coming.
drive
No,
down
it's just
inflation in recent reports, but that trend is starting to reverse.
Come on, Matt. You look like you're about to fall asleep.
How are you thinking about how the Israel-Iran
Is this guy
conflict
sleeping?
will impact the economy?
Or is he just really chill?
And what lessons were learned during the 2022 period when another conflict, the Russia-Ukraine war, sent oil and gas prices skyrocketing?
Good question.
So, of course, we're watching like
Good
everybody
question.
else is, what's going on. I really don't have any comment on that. Possible that we'll see higher energy prices. What's tended to happen is when there's turmoil in the Middle East, you may see a spike in energy prices, but tends to come down. Those things don't generally tend to have lasting effects on inflation, although, of course, in the 1970s, they famously did because you had a series of very, very large shocks. But we haven't seen anything like that now. The U.S. economy is far less dependent on foreign oil.
That is true.
Than it was back in the 1970s. So, but
that is very, very true.
A quick follow-up. I've just got to ask you about artificial intelligence.
So chill.
Some technology executives have recently been warning that AI could wipe out a large chunk of entry-level jobs and significantly increase the unemployment rate. I'm wondering how concerned you are at all about the threat that AI poses to employment.
What does
this is a question. The question really is, will AI be more augmenting labor or replacing labor? And I wouldn't. We all see those announcements, including one today.
Will not be here for this to happen. Why do you care? It's such a stupid question.
Data points, because AI should be.
What type of question is that exactly? Dumbass question is that?
Both. Anyone who's done any work with AI will have been a little bit stunned at how capable it is, and it's just a different thing. So I think this is something that certainly has transformational potential, and probably we're in the very early stages of it. They say what you're seeing now compared to what you'll see in 2 years
one day
is going to be very different and even more effective. So I think it's really hard to know. Of course, there are optimists who feel.
I do like the way that these type of questions, right? I do like the way that when Lambo.
And there are those who think it's going to replace an awful lot of jobs right across.
When Lambo, brother. When Lambo.
Blue collar and everything. So I just don't know.
I'll have a look at.
We don't have a house view on that. But this is going to be a very important question for some time.
No, it's doing okay. It's holding.
Thank you. Greg Rapp from MarketWatch. I was wondering if you could step back a little bit, Chair Powell. There's a spate of articles and a lot of op-eds now in the newspapers saying that the U.S. economy and the global economy is going through this profound change, akin to the end of the Bretton Woods era in the 1970s.
Ooh.
Don't you owe the American people some sort of explanation for what we're going through? I mean, I noticed earlier this month when you talked about Bretton Woods a little bit, and you said that Bretton Woods, the Fed staff had to like change how the dollar movements of the dollar was impacting the economy. Are we going through something like that now? That, you know, are you having to change how you do monetary policy? Is it that fundamental a change underway? Thanks.
It's certainly a time of real change. You know, from a geopolitical standpoint, from a trade standpoint, from an immigration standpoint, you see this not just here but everywhere. So there's quite a lot going on. It doesn't change the way we do monetary policy in the near term. I mean, but and it doesn't change our objectives or what we need to do. And you know, these things are not really our issues. They're really issues for elected governments. All of those issues are really for elected governments. But there's no question it's a time of real change, and very hard to see where that goes. You know, will it be? There have been many things written about how it's going to be a more inflationary time. That's possible. It's not guaranteed.
Is it now?
AI could cut in the very other direction. AI could make people much more productive and push in the other direction. I don't know though. So, but you're right.
Is it
honestly, our focus is a much more practical one, and that is how do we keep inflation low and employment high in the near term. That's really what we're about.
I love how that answer gave. It meant nothing. There's no understanding behind that answer.
Hello, Chairman Powell. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. What is the view about the growing amount of slack in the job market, including the softening in payrolls, the forecast of a modest rise in the unemployment rate, and the ability of workers to demand wage hikes or not in this environment where you have inflation surging?
You don't see
what a question.
Unemployment going up. You don't see increase.
Oh man, what a question.
I mean, the margin. Remember, you're at 4.2% unemployment. That was for many years. That was a extremely low level. It happens to have come up off of an even lower level as we came out of the pandemic. We were as low as 3.4%, but 4.2% is probably at the low end of estimates of the longer run, sustainable level of natural rate of unemployment. So I wouldn't agree with that. Also, in terms of wages, you know, real wages after inflation have been moving up sort of more than was consistent with 2% inflation. They're still moving up at a healthy clip, and I think much more consistent with 2% inflation given a reasonable assessment of trend productivity. So it's a pretty good labor market. You know, you're right that the level of job creation has come down, but so has the supply of workers, the change in the supply, the new supply. So you've seen the unemployment rate remain pretty stable at 4.2.
What kind of car power
It's been as high as 4.3, but
I can see him putting his chains and getting into a Lambo.
So it's a pretty good labor market. The thing is, there's a more concerning thing is there's not a lot of layoffs, but there are not a lot of job creation. The number, if you're out of work, it's hard to find a job.
Man.
But
Come on.
Very few people are being laid off at this point. So that's an equilibrium we watch very carefully, because if there were to be significant layoffs and the job finding rate were to remain this low, you would have an increase in unemployment fairly quickly.
But
that hasn't
less
happened.
jobs are
It really
being
hasn't
created.
happened. So
unemployment is going down.
All kinds of forecasts for it to weaken. Really,
so they're not creating new jobs,
and it's been remarkable to see just again and again when.
Like, I don't know what this guy is waiting for, man.
But,
I'm saying I don't know what this guy is waiting for.
Go to Jean for the last question. Hi, Chair Powell. Jean Young.
All right, last question.
Market News.
Come on.
There's been a lot of talk
Bitcoin.
about cuts. I wanted to ask you, why do you think there are no forecasts for rates to rise or even to stay where they are next year, given that the projection for inflation is to rise to 3%, and there's a lot of there's some skepticism over whether those price hikes will be a one-time event?
So there are a number of people on the committee who wrote down no cuts this year, but some cuts next year. So I think people are writing down their most likely path, right? They're not saying there's zero possibility of other things. Really, it's think of it as the least unlikely path in a situation like this where uncertainty is very high. I think, again, people write down their rate paths, and they do not have like a really high conviction that this is exactly what's going to happen over the next 2 years. No one feels that way about their rate path. They feel like,
good breath.
What am I going to write down? I mean, what would you write down? It's not easy to do that with confidence. So I would just say it that way. We don't rule things in or out. Certainly a hike is not the base case at all. It's not something people are writing down. But in the meantime, we do the best we can with these forecasts, and I think they're representative of the different forecasts and different reaction functions that people on the committee have. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Ooh la la. Ooh la la. What is Bitcoin doing? Absolutely nothing. I mean, everything's baked in and understood at this present moment. It looks like people are. What is DXY? Yeah, I mean, like as I said, it could probably go up to here. It's as expected, nothing interesting, nothing over the top. I will be definitely reading through exactly what's going on, but I think I will say this, right? I'm getting vibes that there could be a potential. I mean, look, all right. This is my theory, right? And if you start hearing this everywhere after I say it, then you know you heard it here first. What I am seeing right now, and where my mind is going at this present moment, is that we have levels of hopium, and we have factors and cracks that could cause an aggressive pullback in the markets, right? But all in all, we are coming to a crescendo here. No one has any idea, including you. Thank you so much, ads. I was waiting for that one level of insult. It means a lot. Thanks, man. It's always good. I always expect one of those to come at every live. Where was I? Oh, now ads made me forget where I was. What was I saying? Was anyone listening? What was I saying? I forgot what I was saying now. What was I saying? Anyone? We are so effed. Oh, nice. Thank you very much. What was I saying? Opium. All right. Opium. Christian. All right. Yeah. Okay. Before I'm gonna stop looking at the very lovely. Not being rude is the truth. Okay. Cool. All right. So fantastic. I appreciate it. What I was going to say is that what I'm thinking is going to happen, and this came to me when I was reading a New York Times column, and it's quite amazing that the news is not reporting on this, right? And this is why I'm going. If you guys are asking questions, I'm not going to be able to answer them. I want to be able to give my understanding of what's going on, give you an understanding of what the market is doing, and then I will answer them. So if you're asking questions right now, I'm not going to be able to answer them. We are coming to a crescendo where we will see a massive move in the market. I'm thinking relatively long term, and I'm thinking this is going to be wholeheartedly connected to a rate cut. And the reason why I say this, and the reason why I'm cautious about how I'm talking about this, is that right now, no one is reporting on how much the tariffs are actually making the USA. People are. Well, 1 second. Let me just do this so I don't get disturbed. 1 second. There we go. It's all right. All right, done that. No one is talking about how much the tariffs are making the USA. It's roughly at 40 billion a month they're making. That, in line with what I would state is when a rate cut happens, say it cuts it by 50 basis points, right? It's not 2 billion. I mean, it's about 40 billion a month from what I'm getting right now. It can vary because it's a import based taxation. That, in line with a rate cut, say 50 basis points, would cut the US debt by I mean, like the repayment on the debt by about 400 billion would mean that the US would technically be paying down its debt. And in an economy where that much income is coming in, new income, by the way, let's not forget that, and with liquidity being more mobile, I do not know of a market where people would want to plant their money than in the USA in that economic environment. You know, when everyone is saying where is the liquidity going to come into this market and where the money is going to go for all this growth is going to be at the point where the tariff income combined with the rate cut, where the cut in the repayments in the debt will cause a massive influx of money into the USA. Truly enormous. Now, the problem is that in between that point, we have massive levels of uncertainty. Absolutely enormous levels of uncertainty. And coming back to my theory of where, you know, the tariffs and the rate cuts and everything else is, if you look at SBX has had one of the most spectacular V-shaped recoveries I've ever seen. Like, look at this recovery in a time when there is uncertainty. And I will say this, right? In times of war and unrest and things like that, you will see the SPX rally into this. And this is where my level of hopium is coming in, right? Usually, these type of traditional markets rally into a war. Because you know why? Do you know why? And Powell said it as well. Because uncertainty with war lasts a very short amount of time. There is a period of uncertainty that will happen. Then the next stage will be massive growth. This is the situation of where it's going in. This is what's happening. This is my level of hopium. We are getting, in essence, still growth in the S&P 500. Yeah, we might get a bit of a pullback in this and the other, but this is growing. And we're seeing strength in Bitcoin. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, like we still could see this pull back into the 97,000 area, 97 to 96,000 area. But I will say, I'm leaning more towards the moment a rate cut happens, it's going to be spectacular growth. And this liquidity that we need to see, especially in an environment where we have like trailing off volume. Look at the volume. Look at the volume on Bitcoin. It's insane. Look at this thing, man. It's like going into nothing. Like there's no volume in Bitcoin. That worries me right now, man. That's worrying me. So you're saying rate cuts won't trigger the biggest pullback? Not right now. Right now, the market is what as I said. Right now, the market wants a rate cut. So and they're expecting. Although he did say maybe not this year rate cut, which could cause a bit of a pullback, right? But they're expecting it by September. Understand that the SPX, the S&P 500, is the barometer of the future. This is a 6 months. This is 6 months in the future movement, not now. They're looking at they're hedging their bets that in 6 months we're going to be getting a massive rate cut, and that rate cut in line with all the enormous amount of money that the I mean, I'll put it here. It's just like it's from WSJ. It's about 40 billion a month. That in line with the rate cut is going to cut new income of 40 billion a month, and at the same time the debt repayment will drop by 300 to 400 billion a year. That's a good economy. That's a good economic environment to be in. So what could happen? And look, I mean, if we look at gold as well, gold is like this is the thing. Gold right now, what it's doing right now, and it's sort of like rejecting and pulling back into the zone. This is a sign of strength in the economy, not a negative sign. But rate cuts can bring, but rate cuts, historically, you have to look at what the environment the cut is done in. You also need to understand and remember, a rate cut in December, that's what the woman was saying, a rate cut in December did a massive pullback. Don't forget that. It all depends on the market environment that it is. And my worry is that him waiting this long and doing this wait and see, I see no benefit. I see no benefit of him making this political. None. I see no benefit. And I'm in the back of my mind, in the conversations that they're having, I am worried that there is something else that they're seeing that's making them not want to cut. It can't be just tariffs. We're on a downtrend at the moment. So something else is going on here. Something else is going on here. I mean, look, if we look at, let's go into a few factors here that I was looking. I mean, if we look at the USDT dominance here, right? Let's make that a bit cleaner. If we look at USDT dominance here, it's still within a range. There's going to be some movement that's going to happen here. I don't like the fact that it's gaining strength above this channel, but it's rejected off that trend line, which to me could give vibes of this thing going back down. There's no breakout. There's nothing going on. I'm sensing boring vibes at this present moment until there is some sort of stimulus into the market, some sort of shock into the market where the market is waiting for at this present moment. Some form of news, what the America is going to do, what's going to happen, because America going in will have, as Powell said, a short-term shock to the market, like a war. You see that oil, right? It's rejected off the trend line, but it is knocking at its door. I promise you this: the moment America, right? And I don't know if you guys watching my video. You guys should really watch my video. But I don't care. America's in this war. Now, what excuse they're going to use to get into the war is what I'm looking for. And that's what the market is waiting for. Because the moment they announce, believe me, this is going to go like that. This is going to go moon. This is going to moon. VIX is going to moon. Everything's going to move. And the markets will do a pullback. The SPX will probably go, but Bitcoin most probably will do some form of pullback. We'll see. Everyone is waiting on what the USA is saying. Fed is not important at this present moment. We have to see what America is going to do. But the thing is, at the end of these wars, or the end of these moments, and historically, some of the biggest moves in history happen. So move your timelines a little bit. I mean, dollar is going up, which is pretty good. God, it's holding resistance. We'll see. I still think it depends on what the US says, right? Now, if we look at Bitcoin dominance, it's broken out of it looks like this area, the 66.13 is primed, in my opinion. Between there and say 68, between that area, around that level there, will be an area where I expect some form of rejection, but we'll see. We'll see. One area of hopium, and I want everyone to really understand this, and this is really, really important, all right? I mean, I've drawn this 50% level. It's lost that. It's going down. But what I will say, all right, if you guys have like some form of Elliott wave understanding, to me, 1, 2, 3. This is my understanding. Like we are in a position right now where I would expect some type of movement. Because to me, this looks like it's wave 2 of wave 3, and wave 3 is usually the violent one up to hit. Like this is the move. And if you look, which is really interesting, when you draw the fib, 50% level is key. Once it reclaims that, will start moving up. But strangely enough, the 618 is at its resistance line. It's at the trend line that it has gone through many, many years. You know what I mean? That in line with the target area that I have around between the 125 and the 135 seems right to me. Look, we are still within full range of the channel of Bitcoin multi-year trend line. We definitely could see, and this is where I'm going to say, don't get afraid by what I'm going to say right now, right? We could see this thing pull back down to here. It could even go down to here. It doesn't matter. It still will be on the bullish trend. Don't forget, here is where it's like bye-bye zone. So you're saying once USA announces involvement, the will pull back. We don't know what they're going to announce. This is the problem. This is max uncertainty. Donald Trump came out with a tweet literally saying, we may attack you, we may not attack you. We know where the Ayatollah is staying. We could take you out, we may not take you out. But what I do know is that they're sending refueling tankers by the dozen to the nearby seas. And you know, my last video that I did, Ted Cruz did have a little bit of a Freudian slip and said we're about to attack them tonight, and then they were like, wait, what? I mean Israel's gonna attack, not us. So they're involved. They wouldn't have attacked if Donald Trump didn't give the go ahead. It's just how they're going to frame it and what they're going to do it, right? But what I will say one thing, and I'm going to show you some things that are not so great, right? These things are not so great. If you look at the combined order book of exchanges, right, we are in negative. And historically, when you hit negative, you get a pullback. And the reason why I say that is because it's been negative a few times, and one of the major times that it went negative. One second, to make sure that I'm not a robot. There we go. 1 second. One of the major times it went negative is when the Donald Trump coin came out, and that kind of marked tops, short-term bearish movement areas. Also, I want to also explain. Look, I mean, exchange volume is not moving. There's no new liquidity in the market. The market is fully institutional play here. And if we look at the heat map, we are developing a range between 103 and 106, right? This is a very tight range. When a range is that tight, it means boring. And it could literally, and I mean this in the best way possible, swing between 100,000 and 110,000 for months. It could definitely do that, right? This is the thing. This is the aspect that I'm talking about. As I said, if you look at total market cap, it looks like it's wave 1, 2, 3, right? It looks like we're going to do that. Ethereum, as much as it's done its thing, it's still within a trading range. It's still within a trading range. And look, I'll tell you this. This is something that I want everyone to understand. If ETH recovers its Monday low, if ETH recovers this and settles here, in my understanding, it will top up towards the Monday high. So this is a range. So right now it's low volume, boring, waiting for news. And the thing, someone says about total 3 alts right now. I had to go, bro. Of course, no problem. Alts right now are in a difficult stage because alts run when there is ample liquidity in the market. We have no liquidity in the market. No new liquidity is coming into the market. And the only time that will happen is when there is a rate cut. And when there's a rate cut, risk assets that are risk on will be doing some amazing moves. That's it. Right now, we're looking boring. We're going to be ranging like a can't say that word, but you know what I mean. And look, if you look at this, ETH and Bitcoin, right? You have to understand ETH. ETH is the market. ETH is altcoins, right? And when you do ETH against Bitcoin, it's still holding. It's still holding this range that we're seeing right now. Worry if we see this break down, come back up and chill here for a bit and then break down here, do a full Bart Simpson, right? Worry then. But right now, you're gonna be like, you're gonna be hearing a lot of people talking both ways, and this market was going to move in unpredictable ways at this present moment. I'm telling you, my target is still 135. It's still 135. That target there is still there. But at this present moment, with such low volume, and what's also key, you also need to understand, is that people are not selling Bitcoin. They're not selling it. So institutions are buying. People aren't really selling Bitcoin. Could the war create money? Yes, it could do. A lot of things can be created. Usually, wars are massive catalysts for growth. I keep talking about it. There, that dip, right there. That dip there is when Iran attacked Israel. Right there. Let's not forget that. When there are big moments, that's why I did a video about it. You guys should watch my video and follow and like and do all that kind of jazz, right? I did a video about it. I said that it's one of those moments that don't come often in your lifetime. Printing can increase inflation, but if unemployment and growth goes down into the toilet, they will print money. I promise you that. They will forgo inflation to support the economy. It's called the Fed put. Look it up. But look, you see, this is the thing. So what can happen is that when SBX pulls up towards this area here, Bitcoin and alts to an extent, there's a delayed reaction to this. So this will move first, and a couple of weeks later, Bitcoin will catch up. Like, we're at resistance at the moment. It's rejected off that trend line. To me, it looks like it's going to go down. But again, right now, look, it's perfect bounce off the 97. Perfect bounce off the 97,938. Again, I said it could go up to here and then possibly reject from that point there. We'll see. Right now, it's a wait and see game. Very much like the Fed. The one thing I will say about the Fed, right, is that yeah, I get that they need to wait and see when if the tariffs are going to do some sort of damage, right? Ion X, yes, I'm on there. You can actually see what's happening there. I understand that they're saying things like we have to do a wait and see type of scenario, and then react accordingly. But what do they need to wait for more? Things are on a downtrend at the moment. We're on a downtrend. We're on a down, inflation is going down. We're almost at the 2%. We're 2.3. We're almost at the exact point of where you want to be. What do you need to see? What do you need to see to bring some level of push to the market? And I don't know what it could be. It is on the tipping point, but I sometimes, yeah, I see the Bitcoin dominance is breaking out of that. Although it's not really there. It's more of that type of thing. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see what happens when Bitcoin dominance comes to all time at 64.888. But I still think the up here is a level that needs to be up. What are your thoughts on Jerome Powell's speech and moving forward? Jerome Powell's speech is more of the same. What worries me more is that people in the committee are saying no cuts this year and maybe cuts next year. So what are they waiting for? Like, what are they waiting for? Why have a restrictive monetary policy? I mean, what I need to understand right now is that while there is tariffs and certain deals are being made and the value of the tariffs are coming down and the income coming from the tariffs are going up, where and why is he going to see a change? I don't think it's political. I don't think it's political. Because what he did say is true. There will be an area, there will be a point in which these costs are passed on. Someone needs to pay, right? Someone needs to pay for this. But if Donald Trump can do deals like the USA, bring it down to a point where it's like around the 10 to 20% mark tariffs, and they get deals, that is a value in which that can be absorbed by companies and the supply chain as it goes along. Because free markets have a knack of settling itself. Certain companies can't raise prices to a certain point, because then if they do, it defeats the point, because then it equates itself to importing from foreign bodies. So we'll see. He's trying to wait for an area of the supply chain to crack. Inflation is down now. Now they can cut rates. Yeah, rates, and so raise again if it goes up. Yeah, but a rate cut will absolutely annihilate the market. So he's conscious of that as well. Look, he's looking for a crack. I think this is what it is, right? I think I understand what he's looking for. He knows, and I know he knows, right? And I think he's stress testing the economy and the US market. And what's going to be happening right now, right? And this is what I think is the, thank you so much. It's very kind of, and I think this is what's happening. By him keeping somewhat restricted rates, they're still not massively high, right? But somewhat restricted rates with the longevity of tariffs, he is trying to see where the crack is going to happen and then make a decision on that. I think that's what he's trying to do. Because the last thing he wants to do is do a rate cut and then the crack is everywhere. It's everywhere. Everything is cracking because of these tariffs. Supply chains are breaking down. Consumer sentiment is breaking down. Consumer spending is breaking down. Everything is breaking down, right? Those things, if that happens, then it will be catastrophic. And the rate cut will only add to that level. Waiting for clear signs of inflation is just a small factor at the moment. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking he's looking for. He takes his job too serious. I like that he takes his job too seriously. I think the bigger concern is USA is getting involved in a war. That would be short. That would be a short-term shock to the market. Look, I'm just gonna say this, right? And I'm making my statement here. This is just my thoughts. That is not based on any facts. America is in a war with Iran. It's just how they frame it. They're in a war with Iran. I don't care what anyone says, right? There is no way that this thing ends. There's no way that this thing ends without America getting involved somewhere or other, because it will be a massive war of attrition where both sides are going to get annihilated or have massive effects happening. Look, China is talking, saying that China is pulling out its officials and people that live there. China. They're pulling the officials out. People are it's running away from Iran at the moment. Something big is going to happen. Something big is going to happen. We'll see. But what this is showing me is that the market is, it's seeing a potential for growth in this, and so am I. And so am I. I'm seeing a potential for growth in this. I wonder what my Nvidia is doing. That's what I'm saying. It's seeing potential to grow for this, so it's seeing that there is a movement here, especially as the war happens. It usually rallies into it. What I'll also say about this, right? What I'll also say about Bitcoin, this is very important to see, right? This gap is narrowing, and there's going to be a crescendo point somewhere, right? There's going to, I mean, it's a bit lazy what I'm doing, right? But there's going to be, let's just do that, right? There's going to be a crescendo point somewhere. Somewhere in between these two, there's going to be a point where a big move is going to happen, because there is a squeeze happening right now. And to be honest, when you look at what SPX is doing, if this continues up, and we're seeing most probably people shorting like crazy, this could cause a short squeeze, especially if SPX starts moving up, because we have seen there's a rejection going on here. And if you like, again, this is slightly lazy, but let's do something on this level. Let's try and build a, we do, actually, let's not do it that way. We do have, let's do that. Yeah. We do have somewhat, if we see a big rejection back down to here, it is somewhat of a bear flag and USDT dominance. So right now, there is major conflicting aspects. Some signs are pointing to further growth. Some signs are pointing to weakness in the market. Some signs are pointing towards a squeeze that's coming. Right now, there is no clear direction, none. And it's pointing towards just chopping, literally chopping between. Genuine, where is this? That's around, yeah. Basically chopping between doing something like that. Something on that level. And you see that this is not, it's not really, the moves are not really moving because all the people that are buying this are institutional. And they're like, I don't, their understanding is like, I don't care if it moves. I don't care if it moves to here. We know that when everything passes and all the regulations and everything else, this is going to be millions of dollars. They're looking at 10-year plan, not like, a couple of months. And look, don't get me wrong, the Genius Act passed. Genius Act passed. Right? We're missing the fact that we've passed one of the most impactful legislations in history. Do you remember when he said the Bretton Woods system? Do you know what the Bretton Woods system is? Right? Do you understand? I mean, this is the thing. These type of small little things. I'm going to do a video about it tomorrow so everyone can understand. But I'll give you guys a bit of an understanding what the Bretton Woods system is. The Bretton Woods system is, in essence, a funneling of world currencies pegging to the dollar, and then the dollar being pegged to gold. Right? What's moving now, what's happening and moving away from in the situation is becoming blurry. And the only way that Bretton Woods system will actually show some level of resurgence, that level of movement, is partly with what I'm saying. When we start seeing volatility move down, when we start seeing the Fed cutting, liquidity coming in, and at the same time these tariffs having some level of balance where deals are done, there's still some tariffs which bring in massive amounts of in essence taxation income. There will not be an economy that anyone else would not want to put their money into. What other economy would you put it into? There would not be in the financial environment where that will not be the case. That's what we're seeing right now. That is the inevitable outcome of what's going to happen, and that is why I see that the next stage, there's a huge growth in the forthcoming future, and that's what the SPX is seeing as well. It's seeing that there is going to be some movement here. Definitely, they know that towards the end of the year, there's going to be movement in that direction. This is the situation where we are right now, though. Short term, alts are gonna feel like, I think alts are gonna feel some pain. Pain is gonna be felt, but I will say, right now, if you're any form of trader that's going to be playing around, this is going to be great learning period. You're going to be, if you want to learn how to trade, this is the environment to trade in, because this is going to be somewhat as cyclical as you could possibly imagine, and you can hone in most of your skills to that. Do you need a rate cut to print money? No, not necessarily. Usually they come hand in hand, though. They come hand in hand in that aspect. So that's it. That's where we are at this present moment. It's boring chop and hyper news focused at this present moment. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Pat Wood, for subscribing. That's very kind of you. It's hyper news focused at this moment. Does this just fall in a typical scenario? If selling may and go away, is it just a different form? No, man. That selling may, look, I'm going to say something about selling may and go away. Out of 12 of these cycles, right, selling may and go away has been right 5 times out of them. And what does that mean? It means it's statistically uninteresting. It always makes sense when it works out that way, right? People will shout the loudest if they have been in one direction for a long period of time, and that period of time has passed and it happens, they will be shouting the loudest. So that's what you'll be hearing the most. So you at this present moment, you will be hearing a lot of people saying it's over. A lot of people saying it, though, especially the ones that have been saying it's over for months, right? A lot of people will be saying that right now. Let's not beat around the bush. Selling May is Selling May is only around because it sounds good. It does sound right. It rhymes, man. Rhyming is good. I like a good rhyme. You know what I'm saying? You know, what is it called? Anyway, that's the thing. What was the news from FOMC? Nothing. Boring. Nothing happened as expected. All that kind of jazz. It's interesting right now. I mean, look. If you look at the, we're at 2.4. I mean, we are seeing a bit of a tick up, a little bit of a move up from 2.3 to 2.4. But you're kind of at the level you want to be at. Where is it do you want to go to? I know you're saying you want to go to 2% and everything else. Yeah, but you know, this is COVID. And you guys have, like, it's been I don't know. Hold on into June, jump into the lagoon. Same, literally since. What is 2.4 USDT? What do you mean? What is 2.4 USDT? Look, I'll say something about USDT dominance as well, right? Mark this 5% line. I'm a bit higher than 5%, but 5% line. Mark that. I suspect as long as we hold this in USDT dominance, we're still in a good place. Look, I mean, I just want to also say this, right? I just want to say this, right? I hope we're not going into to have to wait another 2 to 3 years for the next bull run and skip this run. I don't think so. No. Would you expect the housing market collapses in recession 2026 from the UK? I think the UK housing market is going through a bit of a problem already, and the government isn't really helping. They're really not helping the scenario. Treating landlords in a way that is like full-blown enemy number one is only making rent and houses more expensive. I don't know what else to say, man. Like, I don't know what else to say. Okay, maybe it's because I own a lot of property and I'm a landlord, but like, I'm the one in the problem. Feel sorry for me. I'm the one that's difficult. All right, making me like, you know, giving me difficulties. Anyone need some tips about rentals and stuff? Let me know, man. I got a course. No, I'm joking. I don't have a course. I don't have a course. I don't have a course. But if you want one, no, I'm not messing around. But that's where we are. Hey, man, what are you talking about? I got experience and stuff. So you're the one charging me extra rent. I don't charge extra rent. All right. You know, I'm gonna say this to you, right? I want to explain this to you. This is my thing, right? So I have a person that manages my please let there be the best, most banging bull run this year. We are going to see some form of move. It's amazing how alts will only really work when we're in a sort of, you know, highly liquid environment, right? But I was gonna say, look, I have if anyone wants to know anything super boring about the UK housing legislation, there is a new bill coming in. It's like they're trying to help, but making it 10 times worse, right? I just want to say this. So there's a new bill coming out where there are caps on how much rent you can charge. But in the bill, it says that you're allowed to increase rents by inflation. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen is every landlord every year is going to increase the rent by inflation, guaranteed. Guaranteed. I just want everyone to really understand that point. Anyways, it's guaranteed going to increase the rent, because that's what my property manager said to me. My property manager said to me is like, all right, okay, so we're bringing in a new system now where every year automatically it's going to be raised. But I was like, we haven't done that before. He goes, yeah, I know, but but now because of what the restrictions they're putting on us, we have to do that just so we can stay in line. I was like, but it's not like, and he goes, yeah, I know, but that it's hilarious. Anyway, what if inflation goes down? Inflation is a lie. That's the problem. My microphone is doing weird stuff. Can you guys not hear me? Can you guys hear me? It's okay now. It's an echo. It was. It's fine. Echo. Is it echo? Echo? Okay now. Is it an echo or is it fine? This is good now. It's good now. It's good. Echo. Man, don't. All right. Don't. Just don't. Yes, but no. I do love. I really love. I'm going to tell you something really interesting about AI, by the way. I'm going to tell you something really interesting about AI. If you guys want, but the level of soft like trolling that you get is amazing. Like, it's like we kind of like you, so we're gonna troll you, but not maximum level. We'll get the one guy coming in now and again and like give you your coping, bro. But thoughts on the Shinobi forecasting tool? I have no idea what that is. All right, look, I'm gonna tell you something really interesting about AI. Right, I was fortunate to have a talk with one of my friends who works in the AI industry in the USA. Right. And the way he talked about it, I was like, let me just explain it this way, right? Let me just explain it this way. They know what it's going to do, and they don't care. I think is the best way to put it. They know what's coming. They know what it's going to do to everyone, and they don't care about it. That's all I'm gonna say. I was looking at him going, bro, you're sounding quite evil right now. He goes, yeah, I know, but it pays me well. Like, oh my god. Oh my god. I was like, oh my god. I was like, all right, okay, cool. Oh my god. Okay, cool. Everything's all good, man. I'm happy for your give us some more hints. What do you mean? So their prediction. And if everyone is in a what he basically said to me, and I want everyone who is in a job to take a long, hard look at whether AI can do this. Can AI do my job? That should give you an understanding of what I mean. And if it can, start learning skills that mean that you can use AI very, very, very well. That's all I'm going to say to you, because their projections. Let me just explain to you this way, right? He said to me, and I mean this in the nicest possible way. It's not even the robots, man. It's the AI stuff. He said to me, right, is that currently what they're working on. Maybe I can't do my job. If you're a physical worker, then you'll be fine, right? If it's skill based. He said to me, currently they're working on a system, and this is in accounting, by the way. This is in accounting. They have an accounting software thing. They're working on a system where it's not just an AI. It is like it's like a block. That's the way he describes it. He goes, we're creating a block where we can slot in to an accounting company that block of AI will talk to each other and possibly cut 20 to 30% of employees in a company. And he goes, And once we can get enough blocks and enough companies and enough of those auxiliary AI to get into the companies themselves, like the companies that use accounting companies, then it will cut workers by 50%. And he goes, and the efficiency gain of what an AI can do to a company like that and increase their profit margins will mean that they will be ruthless in cutting these jobs. I'm looking at him going, yeah, but you're talking about people here, right? Like this is people. And he goes, yeah. But it's fine that the market will adjust and they will find a new form of skill. And I was like, really? I'm like, by the way, I will say this, right? If you are any form of plumber, electrician, or any type of skill, right? Any type of skill, Lamar, I'm not talking about your skill. You're just a boss, right? You're a boss with underlings, right? And that kind of thing, right? So anyone with any type of skill and things like that, right? Anything like that, your guys are going to be driving Bentleys, right? I'm not joking. You will be able to chart. You're going to, I promise you this, right? Give it 20 years. The guy was, we were joking, right? In 20 years' time, you're going to see people on social media, right? doing, I have a course, right? I made $40,000. I'm a plumber. $40,000 a month, and I'm a plumber, right? How I do it is that I'm going to sell you a course on how to do this stuff, and then how to electrician. Yeah, I'm being serious. There's going to be none of this trading and all this kind of like e-commerce stuff. It's going to be like the new kids on the block walking around with all the RM watches. Going, yeah, man, I'm a pool cleaner. I'm not joking. I'm being serious. The way that guy was talking, I was like, damn. I was like, damn. Like, I'm being serious. It was scary what he was showing me. It was like on the go. It was like on the go accounting. And not only on the go accounting, his software can tell companies and give them advice on what to spend and how to adjust their spending so they can be tax efficient on the go. Just so you understand. Just so you understand. Like, I'm just like, all right, yeah, okay, cool. Okay, cool. That's the situation. So it was a really interesting conversation. But yeah, I'm looking into like skill courses right now. I'm definitely creating a course for that. Forget university. Yeah, yeah, look, I mean, university is slowly becoming really unimportant the more time goes by. The biggest companies don't take employees from big major companies anymore. Like I went to a very good university. Like I checked the other day. It's a top 6 university in the world, right? And ask me if that taught me anything. The thing is, you need to be clever to go to those universities anyway. Do you know what I mean? No, it wasn't Oxford. I went to London School of Economics. I did economics and econometrics. Only skilled workers out of the tech industry was. It's crazy. Where'd you go to Trump? Yeah, Trump University. It's amazing, man. Like the diploma you got is incredible. It kind of deteriorated as I was putting it into the frame, but I got most of it. But yeah, that's the situation that I got. Thoughts on Kronos. Do you want me to look at Kronos? I'll look at it later. It's kind of getting late anyway. I might have to look. Let me look at. I need to look at stuff. But what I will say is that look, at this present moment, the market is just chopping. the dollar going up is not a great sign. It means that people are moving away. But the dollar going up and gold going down is interesting, right? That's an interesting situation. So yeah, that's the situation where we're at. Look, right now, let's see what's going on. Let's see if we see continuation of if we see continuation of the SPX going up, then I would suspect some form of short squeeze coming up in Bitcoin as well. If it retracts, then there'll be multiple of aspects that are going to be coming together that will pull this market down, possibly down to the 97 to 96,000 area. We'll see. I mean, the more this level at the 103,300 is looking more and more like heavy support, especially as the 55-day now is coming to that area. This is going to be a tight trading range. Let's see what goes on there. I would say if you're looking at any type of alters, just look at Solana, for example, right? Play the levels. Just play the levels. Like Solana is at like life support at the moment. And the fact that pumped up fund got messed up, right? It's at real life support right now. Like it's at real life support right now. Just play it. Play the levels, man. It's you can see it. Like if it loses its level, you can see the next level here is there. I'll teach you one small thing here for everyone that's here, right? How to find levels. How to find a strong bounce levels. It's very easy. Super duper easy, right? You just look at the maximum area of touches to that level, and areas to that level once flipped has shown bullish momentum. So here, for example, that's next level. Maximum levels of touch where it's flipped, it's shown bullish momentum. Again, it's touched it, look, rejected, negative, retracing. Once it's flipped it, you see we'll get it closer here. Once you see it flipped it, and you see positive momentum, you know that this area here is an area of control, and that what will happen is that if you want to see, you can check it in there, and you can actually see the recordings as well. And what will happen is that if this thing loses this area here, usually the major wick level, look here is also a level of support, right? You've seen it touch multiple times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is held the area of support. If it loses this, you know, most probably, see here, most probably this will move from here to here. On Sol, it won't be too much of a move, but it's as strong of it's a 4% move. It's a 4% move, and on a coin the size of Sol, that's a big move, right? You'll see it move. That move there is somewhat of a no-brainer. Just work on the levels. You see here, like I just work on levels and factors like that. Not only is that, we're also seeing on Sol, just to be honest, I said everyone that wants to be there, it's there, man. Right? That's how you see. It's very easy to understand when you do it. And there'll be a point in where I'll be doing this on a more regular basis. Let's get this market to the levels it is, and then once everyone makes some profit or whatever they need to do, then I'll start getting into more of this kind of understanding of how and what I look at. But yeah, once it gets to this, but I'll tell you this. Don't also forget that because this has so many levels of support, you could also see support and a bounce from here as well. That's why trading at key levels, at key pivot points, is where the best risk to profit ratios are. That's where the best areas of trading are. Like right now here, yeah, it's at support and had a little bit of a bounce, but there's no real movement, clear direction. The more you see key support levels, for example, if it breaks here and comes to this point, I would expect some form of rejection, some form of support here, reject and come up, possibly retest this zone here again. Just look for these things. Learn this basic stuff first, and then start looking at like indicators and all that kind of stupid jazz. You know what I mean? The other stuff is all confluence things. That's it. Simple as that. But if the US gets involved, it doesn't matter. Short term, it will matter. Short term, it will cause some problems in the market, and the market, man, is on an edge. It's on some straight. It is on it. Everything wants to. I mean, like you say SPX, right? Let's look at SPX because apparently everyone's talking about it's going to get listed and all that kind of stuff. I'll look at. No, that's not it. SPX. That one, right? Yeah. Looks relatively strong. It's coming to resistance at this present moment, right? It's coming. Look, it's coming to resistance at the moment. Here is a strong level of support. Again, look, strong level of support. Once flipped, it turns into a bullish momentum, right? It's an area of support at this level here. But that level of support also spans to here as well. That's why it's look here. Here's a box. There we go. This is the band and where it's holding its support. You see, look, once this was coming down, if you had marked out this zone here, because that's the zone where it see bounces off, flips, it becomes bullish. If it breaks through both, it becomes majorly bullish. You see it coming across. This is a key area that it's flipped. It's technically done a nice SR flip here. So the area of support you see is exactly at that point. This is what I'm trying to say. Right now, where we are in this kind of lazy ranging market of Bitcoin, let's not forget that we are at full all-time high here, right? It's a great time to play around and learn this stuff. If I had seen this and saw it starting to reject down, I would have put a buy order here. I would have put a buy order here. And let's say, yep, see, that's a level of resistance there. See, look, perfect. That would even 12. I would have done a 10 at 10%. I would have taken a profit from that. Because if I see a look, see also here, short term. Let's do a short term move here. Look, that's also an area of importance because it's found support. Look, it's broken, found support there. If I saw this bounce and reject off this point, I would have taken profits. 10% move in that movement there. And also, I will say, once you're playing with these type of things, right? These type of aspects that you're talking about, know that I work in the 2, 5, 10% range. If I've made 2%, right, and it's coming into resistance, I take the profit and leave possibly some if I see some bullish momentum coming in, possibly in a form of volume. If I see 5% coming into area of resistance, I take some off. Again, if I see continuation of bullish momentum, I go from there. 10% is amazing. A 10% gain, especially when you're doing some level of even at 2x, it's amazing. Looking at in essence 20% on your money is incredible. Don't forget, most traders are happy with a percent a day. A percent a day for a trader is top 0.001% of traders can do that. Don't be greedy. Learn the understanding of things, and these can fail. These things can fail, man. This is the thing. You know, just because I put this line there and I was like, oh yeah, that looks like an area of support. It could bounce off that point. It can sometimes blast through it as well. Sometimes it can have a small little rejection. And look, there's another thing I can show you. This is kind of a cool thing as well. Look, if you mark out the ranges, right, and go to a smaller time scale. Let's go to a smaller time scale. I'm giving you a bit of a fun indication. Usually, if a graph I'll show you here. If a graph reclaims the that was wrong one. When the graph reclaims the Monday low like that, it normally shows strength, and it will try and take out the Monday high. Anyway, that's it. All right, cool. Little bit of teaching there. I will start doing more of these as time goes by. Why am I? Please stop doing this. More of these as times go by, and you guys can have an understanding of what's going on. You'll be able to see them here. That's why they're on the screen. Could you like to share your thoughts on Fetch AI and Polygon Matic? They make me crazy at the moment. Yeah, well, I will do that. I'm already 20-30 minutes over my time of doing it. I really appreciate everyone that came here. You guys are absolutely incredible. Fat Cat, the aggregator, is about to get launched. I want to do press around it, but the market is doing some silly things. So we're going to be doing some heavy marketing around that aspect, right? The aggregator is awesome. It's half the price of Phantom fees. You'll be able to swap any token for any token and pay half the price of Phantom. And on top of that, you'll be able to buy Fat Cat from any chain you want to. Name me a project that can do that. You can't. It's just the market is terrible, and people don't understand. They don't understand when liquidity comes in, these tokens and the people that are here for the long haul are going to be making. Anyway, I can't say it, but whatever. All good. Love, affection. You guys are awesome. I'll catch you guys later. Make sure you like and also I want to say one more thing to everyone who's not on here. You know what? Well, I'm going to say something. I'm going to go off here and continue on the other place because I want to show something else as well, which is really important. And you guys can go from there. All right. Love, peace, affection to guys here, not to you guys, not to you guys. All right. Take care. All right, so you guys on X and YouTube, don't forget, look, if you guys want some more levels of signals and understanding and knowing what's going on, right? I want everyone to really understand this. We have a pro group as well that you see here. Everything here you see. We have 4 major traders in this point. We have educational stuff. We have degen stuff. Not so much for degen stuff because it's kind of dangerous at this present moment. But we have full aspects. It talks about the USDT dominance. I talk about what's going to be happening. All this stuff I'm talking about, various news, all these things that are going on. What's happening here? Where the rejection levels are. You know, all this stuff, the P&Ls and the understanding of the markets, what's happening with Donald Trump, all this kind of stuff that goes on. I explain certain factors, really, really important. Look, the bearish divergence was talked about here many months ago and what was going on and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to check that out, check it out. There's, you know, the links will be put on the X and on YouTube. If you guys want to do that, fair enough. You don't want to. It's all good as well. If you wanted me to repeat, you can go and check out my X and on YouTube. You can be able to have a look and understanding of what I'm talking about, and we can move from there. All right, guys, absolute love. Make sure you follow and all that kind of stupid stuff. You know, I have to say it, and make sure you put the bell on as well so you don't miss these lives. All right, lots of love, affection, and I'll catch you guys later. Take care.